The ultimate rags to riches story belongs to Andrew Carnegie, who went from working in a cotton factory for a little bit over $1 a week to literally one of the richest people in history, and arguably America's most influential philanthropist of all time. Carnegie was born on November 25, 1835 in Dunfermline, Scotland. His father Will was a handloom weaver and his mother Margaret provided sewing work for local shoemakers. Before the name became almost synonymous with wealth and riches, the Carnegies struggled with money on a daily basis. Eventually, in 1848, they left Scotland and took a ship to America to look for better opportunities. The Carnegies settled in Allegheny City, which is now part of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Carnegie family had almost no money and few resources. They had to move into 2 rooms located above a weaving shop of a relative. Will took over the business only to have it fail, putting them back under poverty's clutches. Andrew was facing his own troubles. His education ended the moment they left Scotland, and he had high ambition for himself. All he could do was work as a bobbin boy at a cotton factory, responsible for carrying bobbins to the workers. Only 13 years old, he worked from dawn until dusk, all to earn a mere $1.20 a week. Things started to look up a little a year later, if only because it set Andrew on the path to an iconic future. He got a new job as a messenger for a local telegraph company. There, everyone started to see what he was made of. In addition to his job, he threw himself into learning to use the company's equipment. Eventually, he fought his way to a promotion, a telegraph operator. Throughout his childhood, he was a constant presence at the library of a man called Colonel James Anderson, who allowed local workers to enter it as they wished. These books served as the main source of his education and came in useful when he was trying to climb up the ranks of the business world later on. The skills he learned during that time gave him a leg up when getting a job with the Pennsylvania Railroad. At the age of 24, just around 11 years after his first job at a cotton mill, Andrew became superintendent of the Pittsburgh division of the Pennsylvania Railroad. It's as a superintendent that Andrew became a force to be reckoned with. Why? Because he finally had enough pull and money to make investments, and nearly every one of them was wildly profitable. Carnegie was beyond intelligent. He invested in all sorts of businesses, the most important of them being coal, iron, and oil. The ace he invested in was a railroad sleeping cars manufacturer. This is where he made history. It was the superintendent of the Western Division of the Pennsylvania Railroad and Andrew's boss, Thomas A. Scott, who was credited with turning Carnegie's attention towards investment. He told Carnegie the Adams Express Company had 10 shares going up for sale. The Carnegies went all in, mortgaging their home in order to get the $500. An investment that more than paid off, rewarding him with dividends that stopped any doubt he would ever have money problems again. With his foot in the railroad business, Carnegie found he had a knack for it. Investor Theodore Woodruff offered him a share in the Woodruff Sleeping Car Company. Again, Carnegie had to get outside help, getting a bank loan to buy the share. Once more, his risk and investment more than paid off. In fact, he ended up buying the company that would make the U.S. Railroad's first successful sleeping car. The U.S. railroad industry was seeing an unprecedented growth, and a rapid one at that. Carnegie seized every opportunity he could. He created Keystone Bridge Company, an iron bridge building company. With the help of his connections made over a lifetime of ambition, insider contracts allowed him to expand his investments, eventually buying a telegraph firm years after being a messenger in one. By the time he was 30 years old, in addition to investments in railroad, he had steamers on the Great Lakes and oil wells. Skip forward a few years as he was making an astronomical fortune in the railroad business. In 1886, a 51-year-old Carnegie got married to Louise Whitfield. A year later, they welcomed their only child, a daughter. She was named Margaret after his mother. In 1892, already a well-established wealthy man, he sought out more success in the form of Carnegie Steel Company. During the next few decades, he focused on expanding his steel empire. Because he owned the factories and businesses that made and transported the materials, the process was efficient and the profits were maximized. Who knows how much of a success Carnegie would have to be if banker John Pierpont Morgan didn't approach him in 1901. He offered a one-of-a-kind, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He wanted to buy Carnegie Steel for over $480 million, an infeasible amount of money at that time. Carnegie took the deal and became not just America's richest man, surpassing John D. Rockefeller, but one of the richest men in the entire world. That year, he hung up his hat and dedicated himself to a cause he felt more strongly about: philanthropy. Just a couple of years before he sold his company, he penned an essay called The Gospel of Wealth. One of his quotes is saying that wealthy people have a moral obligation to distribute their money in ways that promote the welfare and happiness of the common man. But there's another question that's always stayed with him, one that he's tried his hardest to live by for the rest of his life. The man who dies thus rich dies disgraced. Retired and with over $480 million in his pocket, Carnegie became one of the biggest philanthropists the world had ever seen. In the span of a few years, he gave away more than $350 million. Adjusted to today's dollars, that's several billion, and the bigger bulk of his wealth. His donation founded over 2,811 public libraries around the globe. He also founded what would become one of the most respected research universities in the world. He donated over 7,600 organs to churches around the world. Lastly, he founded numerous organizations, some still active to this day, all dedicated to grants and research in world peace, science, and education. What happened to Carnegie Steel? J.P. Morgan combined it with other steel businesses, all making up the U.S. Steel, which was the first billion-dollar corporation in the world. There's no question about the importance of Andrew Carnegie in our history. He set some of the steel foundations of the modern world, taught the world that success, and wild success at that, can be achieved in spite of circumstances that could hold you back if you let them.